So what's going to happen to the three top-ranking elected Democrats in the Commonwealth of Virginia? And more broadly, what's the standard for the rest of us in the wake of this scandal? Chris Hahn is a progressive radio show host, and he joins us tonight. Chris, thanks a lot for coming on. And I should just say, and I mean this sincerely, I don't know the truth of the allegations against Lieutenant Governor Fairfax, and I think he is due, as we all are, the right to explain himself and to have this adjudicated by some impartial body. So I'm not passing judgment on him or his accuser. I'm passing judgment on the self-appointed defenders of women who just a couple of months ago jumped up and down and told us that Brett Kavanaugh deserved to be in prison because we must believe all women, and yet they're dismissing these women. They clearly don't believe them. Where's Mazie Hirono? Where's Kirsten Gillibrand in all of this? What's the answer?
Well, I don't know that they've dismissed this woman. I sure haven't. It seems to me like he's toast, like he's done. There'll be an investigation, but he's not surviving this. These women seem credible to me. The stories seem chilling, and we should all be appalled by it. Now, should this turn out to be some sort of real political hit job, which I don't think it is, then maybe he survives. But barring that, his career is over and he needs to resign. Now, I know we have two other Democrats in top positions in Virginia who also have issues that we need to deal with. And I have already called for the governor to resign on this show last week, and I am not taking that back. I think his statements on Saturday made it worse than they were on Friday night. And we'll see what people think about the attorney general. But I think people need to be consistent when they make calls for things.
Well, I think that's you're taking a. I mean, agree or disagree, you're taking a position that is undergirded by integrity. I mean, consistency is right. I'm just a little. I mean, just as an American, I think I'm most disgusted by this Mark Herring character, the chief law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia, purely because of the hypocrisy. He jumps up and down when he finds out that the governor has this yearbook in blackface, and then it turns out that he appeared in blackface too. So why shouldn't he resign? Yeah. That's the most confusing part of this to me.
You know, look, I think he came out and he apologized, and I think maybe, we might determine that he should resign. He was 19 years old, and he did something really stupid and, quite frankly, offensive and racist that should not be tolerated in this country. So we'll see what his fate holds. The people of Virginia should ultimately be able to make.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. No, you make a fair point.
There should be some sort of some sort of petition to get rid of him.
Okay, but that's not the standard. Look, I think voters should make all these decisions. And if someone commits a crime in office, impeach him. We have a method for removing people who shouldn't be serving, and it's not Twitter. My question is about the standards that the Democratic Party applies to the rest of us. So Northam did something that was beyond the pale, and Cory Booker and all these other totally false, self-righteous chest beaters who really have no reason to lecture the rest of us about how to live, I would say. But I mean, I'm serious. I live here, okay? But the point is, they don't apply the same standard to this guy because they don't want the seat to wind up in Republican hands. That's the actual truth, as you know.
Look, something needs to be said for the voters of Virginia who chose 3 Democrats for statewide office, and something has to be done to preserve the will of the people. Whether these 3 men should serve, that needs to be determined. I really think that the top 2 need to go right now. I think they're both unfit for office. And the third one, I think he's teetering on the edge. But Virginia needs to do something to make sure that the will of the people is actually recognized.
Do you think
that's something that has to be determined?
Hypocrisy is certainly not just a Democratic problem. There are a ton of hypocrites on the right, too.
Sure,
I know
absolutely.
A lot of them
I call it out every week on my radio
but
show.
But the intensity of the hypocrisy in the last week is kind of hard to ignore. So if you've appeared in blackface, you can't serve in public office, you can't stand on a public stage, you really need to be pushed outside of polite company. And now it turns out that all these prominent progressives have appeared in blackface. I mean, that's a pretty high level of hypocrisy. Have you noticed that, or am I just imagining it?
It's not all of these. It's 2 men in Virginia, and frankly, we don't want to replace.
It's Joy Behar, and it's okay, but it's a lot of the people who are the quickest to judge others turned out to have worn this blackface themselves. That doesn't. You don't notice a theme here, attacking people for what you do.
I think that there needs to be something done about the people who serve in public office, it's a higher calling than, you know, and a higher standard than people who are entertainers and other things. We need to focus on that. We need to remove these people. We need to put people in there who care about Virginia and care about the values that these men were elected to defend. Voters of Virginia wanted people like them there because of what they said on the campaign about their values in governance. They did not know about their histories with women and with blackface and racism. Now they know it, and the voters of Virginia should be heard. And the voters of Virginia
so I'm just getting. I just want to correct, and we're out of time, but I just want to get the final word and correct something. Apparently, Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii has called on Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax to resign.
And you'll hear more.
So she's consistent that way. Chris Hunt, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tucker.
So let's say these weren't three progressive Democrats at the helm of the Commonwealth of Virginia, but they were three conservative Republicans. What would that look like? Dan Bongino is a former congressional candidate, former Secret Service agent. He joins us tonight. So Dan, I mean, do you notice the political imperative overriding moral concerns here?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very simple binary choice here, Tucker. Is it going to be power or is it going to be principle? If the standard here in your principles are, as the Democrats have stated, and I think a lot of people would agree that, listen, blackface is unacceptable in a position of public prominence. You have to go. You handle that on your own later, but you can't govern. Then Mark Herring has to go, the Attorney General, and the governor. That's the principle, right, Tucker? I mean, there's nothing I'm saying controversial.
That's their stated principle.
Exactly, but
for the record, I think it's ridiculous. I think calling for infanticide actually might make it impossible for you to govern because it's murder. Sure. Dressing up like an idiot or being a bigot in college is something that you should apologize for. I'm not sure that 35 years later it makes it impossible for you to govern, but whatever. But you're right. That's their standard, and they've stated it clearly.
They've been on the record that this is, but notice how it became a little more nuanced, Tucker, when they found out that the fourth person in line, the Virginia Speaker, is a Republican. Now all of a sudden there's a little more nuance in the argument. Again, is this binary or is it not? If it's about principles, which they've already stated openly, then you must call for both of them to resign. Now, talking about the number two, Justin Fairfax, the lieutenant governor. I mean, we went through this with Kavanaugh. If you've watched this station or any other cable news network, we went through this for 2 troubling weeks where I don't think there's a Democrat on the record actually defending Kavanaugh. So again, if the principle there is all women are to be believed, accusations are in fact enough evidence for you to leave, and that you have no right to defend yourself, then Tucker, this is all clear. The answers are clear as day by, as you stated, the Democrats' own on-the-record statements they've already made.
And I think that may be kind of percolating up to members of the Senate. Apparently, Kirsten Gillibrand has just on Twitter called for the resignation of Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. So we'll see what happens there. Dan Bongino, thank you very much.
You got it.
Good to see you tonight. All right, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says her Green New Deal will save the planet. In exchange, we just give up cars and airplanes and rebuild every structure in the United States. We'll also, by the way, need to invent brand new forms of energy that science hasn't conceived of yet. How much will this cost? That's unclear. How will we pay for it? Unknown. Who will make this happen? Well, workers, obviously, though anyone who is, quote, unwilling to work will still get paid by the government. In other words, not all of the details have been ironed out as of tonight, and that's why we're grateful that Robert Hockett is here. He's a law professor at Cornell. He's advising Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the Green New Deal, and he joins us. Professor, thanks very much for coming on. So can I just ask the obvious question, why would we ever pay people who are, quote, unwilling to work?
We never would, right? And AOC has never said anything like that, right? I think you're referring to some sort of a document that some doctored document that somebody other than us has been circulating.
Oh, I thought that came right from her. That was in the background or from her office, is my understanding.
No. She's actually tweeted it out to laugh at it. If you look at her latest tweets, it seems that apparently some Republicans have put it out there. I don't know the details.
Good. Well, then thank you for correcting me. I mean, because it seemed a little ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as the idea that we're going to build enough light rail to make airplanes unnecessary, which I think actually is from the plan.
I don't know where you got that either, Tucker. I actually believe that you're actually on our side about this if you actually read the actual plan, right? There's nothing about getting rid of anything. It's about expanding menu options, right? I mean, there are many, many things we want to be able to do now in addition to what we already do. So where's the airplane disappearance coming from? I'm not really clear on where that originates.
Well, I could actually get it for you. This is
that would be great.
Frequently asked questions released by her office. And I'm quoting from it. And maybe this is fraudulent, in which case I hope you'll correct me. But it says that the Green New Deal would, and I'm quoting, totally overhaul transportation, and that would mean, quote, building out high-speed rail at a scale where air travel would stop becoming necessary. Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono responded to that by saying that would be hard for Hawaii. So I don't think that's made up. The senator from Hawaii doesn't think
but I mean, it apparently is being misunderstood, right? We're really talking about expanding optionality here. We're not talking about getting rid of anything, right? We're talking about basically making it cost-effective to move into more modern forms of technology, more modern forms of production, which would then enable people actually cost-effectively to transition to that stuff. We're not talking about requiring anything or prohibiting anything. That's sort of 1980s style environmentalism.
Okay, but hold on. I don't want you to back away from what she herself has said. And all of this with the caveat that, you know, a lot of this won't happen, maybe none of it, but these are the ideas that she's articulating. She did so on NBC last week.
I promise you, Tucker, I won't back away from anything she said. Indeed, we're pushing forward, right?
Then she said, well, yeah, at high speed.
Very high speed.
That we're going to supplant all fossil fuels in 12 years.
Yes.
So
yes.
Okay, so that would mean
that doesn't mean stop. That doesn't mean prohibiting them. It means rendering them obsolete by doing something better. And we can do it. This is America.
Then good. Then I'm glad.
And
it's nice to have a smart person on the show to explain this. What about air travel, which is critical to our economy? This is a continental country.
It stays the same.
Okay,
right?
but no, because that requires fossil fuel.
We're talking about carbon neutrality. Remember, we're talking about net zero emissions. That doesn't mean that there's never any burning of anything, right? I mean, until we come up with solar panel flying airplanes, of course, we're not
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to correct. I just had, because this seemed like we were making news on the show, the unwilling to work thing was in her backgrounder. That has been absolutely confirmed. You're saying no.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay, so NBC and lots of other news outlets are saying that was in the background, and you're saying it's fraudulent.
That's erroneous, right? Now, there might be new details now that you know about that I don't, because I've been doing media all day. But the story all day.
Yeah, I think that was actually in the document. I read it as it came out.
Well, it's the wrong document, Tucker.
It's definitely the wrong.
Yeah, that's not us. No, we certainly don't believe in anything like that. So what you're saying is we're not
getting rid of fossil fuels actually, even though you just said we were.
Because no, we're rendering them obsolete for most purposes that they're used for now, right?
But air travel is a huge source. Source.
Hence the word most before, right? We eliminate them for most purposes for which they're used now. By rendering them obsolete.
So I've got 2 gasoline-powered cars at home.
Yes, but imagine how much better it's going to be when it's cost-effective to drive electric cars. But that can't be done simply by individuals, right? You have to coordinate. You have to have charging stations everywhere. And, of course, individuals can't do that, right? So in that sense, the government is acting like a kind of orchestra conductor here. We're trying to coordinate some of that stuff that can only be centrally coordinated and then enable everybody to act individually within that framework, right?
Yeah, I don't fully understand what you're saying, but let me on the low end, this would be the most expensive thing that the United States has ever undertaken, including rural electrification, the Second World War. And I'm just kind of wondering, in a country that's got more debt than it has GDP, how would we pay for that?
Well, here's the key, right? Remember that we racked up enormous debt to finance the Second World War effort and the New Deal and, of course, the interstate highway system in the 50s. But here's the key point. Here's a takeaway. I want you to remember this. I hope everybody will remember this. Remember that inflation is a relation, right? It's the relation between the quantity of money and the quantity of goods. Now, if the money that you're spending is resulting in the production of a great many more goods, you have no inflation problem. More production absorbs more expenditure. The problem with the $7 trillion that was spent during the Bush years and, of course, the last tax cut was that it wasn't actually productive. But note that even that didn't bring about inflation.
Okay,
right?
We're still not getting close to it. And by the way, I'm just getting all this in my ear, and we're actually going to follow up on this next week. Okay. That unwilling to work line, which you're obviously embarrassed about, and you should be, of course.
No, I'm not embarrassed.
That
it's
was
just not
in
us.
the document.
It's not embarrassing. No, Tucker. No, Tucker. No. We're not embarrassed by what's not ours. No, Tucker. We're not embarrassed by what's not ours. ours. Okay. We
well,
want to
we're going to
clarify
get to
that
the
it's not
bottom of
ours.
that.
Yes, we are.
We're going to
Indeed,
prove
we
it
are.
one way or the other, and I hope you will come back.
I will.
Professor, thank you.
Thanks so much.
I'm glad. I'm always grateful when people on the other side come on, including you. Thank you.
Joining us now with reaction are Fox News contributors Tammy Bruce and Lawrence Jones and civil rights attorney Darrell Parks. Tammy, to you first. The Democrats in Virginia, this is just complete chaos for them now, and now they have two problems here. It's really a binary thing, power or principles, because the person in line of succession after Mark Herring is a Republican. But their principles from the Kavanaugh situation in the past have been clear. So if they're going to stick to their principles, they have a clear political power problem. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the principles for Democrats, that's kind of an oxymoron right there, because this is what's happened. Men now, they get no due process under any circumstance, right? Due process is blown up. Women are now clearly been made into irrelevant, weaponized, additional victims of opportunity when it comes to a political option. If you're the right kind of woman making the right kind of accusation against the right kind of person, i.e. a conservative or a Republican, you're going to be taken seriously. And in this case now, it seems to be so serious that they've got to apply, yes, and they're trying to apply that same standard of no due process. And you heard in that press conference there a moment ago, someone in the background was saying, but how do you know they're telling the truth? How do you know they're telling the truth? Right. And look, women are credible. I want women to be taken seriously. That's part of the dynamic of justice. But in this particular dynamic, they're saying, well, this rises to something more serious. Whereas, in fact, these are accusations at this point. There's been no legal framework. And when it comes to the blackface episodes, the issues some are saying are racist episodes, those are actually in public, have occurred. There's no real debate over their existence. And if it is about character and principles, why aren't they being held to a similar standard about the nature of who's going to be holding office in Virginia? Yeah.
Darrell, let me go to you. Darrell, during the Kavanaugh case, a lot of Democrats were quick to jump out in front of the cameras, immediately demand Brett Kavanaugh take his name out of the running for the Supreme Court position. And what's interesting is in that case, the evidence was thin at best in many cases. Everybody treated the evidence seriously, but it was thin. In this case against Justin Fairfax, and he has the right to be heard like anyone else, he has the right to due process, but the evidence here is very specific, named on the record witnesses. Why did some Democrats take so long, if they stand by these principles, to come out and demand the same for Lieutenant Governor Fairfax?
Well, I think he deserves due process as well.
I agree.
These are accusations against him. I mean, they're accusations, and I think that they have to be vetted. They should be taken seriously, though, Don. I think the accusations made by the women are serious, but they should be investigated, and he should have his day. It's not right that he should just have to outright resign and not have a chance to face his accusers, not have a chance to hear all of the facts. And so I think we need to let this run its course.
Darrell, I don't disagree with you one bit. I mean, I've been consistent on this from the start. I said the same thing about Kavanaugh. I'm just asking you simply why the Democrats didn't give that same standard of justice to Brett Kavanaugh when he was in that position. That's all I'm asking.
Well, it only matters for women and protecting women when the person is going to a high office.
Yeah. Well,
there's a difference too. I think you also have to vet the situation. Remember now, with
Darrell, hold on. Time out. Let me go to Lawrence. Lawrence, hold on 1 second. Darrell, hold on. Let me get Lawrence in here.
I just can't take this nonsense.
No, I'm having a hard time with it too, because the problem I have, Lawrence, in the Kavanaugh case is not only was there a lack of evidence, in many cases there was anti-evidence. There was negative evidence. In other words, some of the information that was put out there turned out to be absolutely categorically incorrect by the names offered up by Dr. Ford herself, and yet Democrats jumped the gun on Kavanaugh. That's my problem with this.
That's exactly right. The evidence wasn't there. They kept changing their stories, including Dr. Ford as well. And now you're seeing, look, I believe in due process. I believe in the right for people to face their accuser. But that's not what the Democrats believe in. And now in order to protect their own, they're changing their story. Look, I have a lot of problems with this case as well. One being that the people that are accusing Fairfax don't want to go through the criminal justice process. They have been open with that. They don't want a real investigation. limitation, especially since the statute of limitation has not even ended in this case.
Yeah, but Lawrence, that's
again,
because you and I have been consistent on this. We have said in both cases that, Tammy, I want to bring you in here, as I know Lawrence has been consistent on this too, that if your principles are, listen, due process matters. Accusations are not evidence. Evidence is evidence. And if everybody is given their chance, eventually this will work out. That's been the standard since the founding of the constitutional republic.
This has been the problem when the Democrats were assigned being the protectors of women, that the owners of this issue, it becomes weaponized and partisan. And as a result, they're going to use it in that kind of way. It eliminates the seriousness of the issue. All women begin to be looked at as unserious and as dangerous, and it becomes transactional in nature. And this is why, for women, realizing that the Democrats within this framework, they can demand that Justin Fairfax resign, but in the meantime, they've destroyed the seriousness of this issue that we've worked on for decades to elevate. And in the meantime, the Democrats continue to lie to women that they're the ones who represent them both the best. Women have got to look to both parties, spread their influence, and have both work for solutions to issues as opposed to using our lives as weapons against your political opponents, because that's what the Democrats have done here.
There's not a
on every issue
consistent bone in their
concerning women.
bodies.
Well,
including abortion, by the way.
Dan, let me say this.
Go
let
ahead,
me say this. I think it's not a Democratic issue. Different people can see this issue different ways. For example, I probably disagree vehemently with the Democrat from Northern Virginia who was just on TV grandstanding against Lieutenant Governor Fairfax. I think that his jump to impeach him about a past event is crazy. Now, I think you can't make it a Democratic or Republican thing.
No, Darryl, it is a Hold on, stand by, Darryl. It is a Democrat or Republican issue because the Democrats made it that way. Not me, Lawrence, or Tammy. Right. We've been very consistent. We said Democrat or Republican, you are entitled to your day in court. You're entitled to defend yourself, the integrity of your name and your character. We have never said any different. It's the Democrats during the Kavanaugh situation that insisted that the standard was different for Kavanaugh. Do you see why people like us might be a little upset? Nothing's changed. Fairfax deserves his day in court. So did Kavanaugh. Right. But Kavanaugh, the evidence wasn't nothing like they have now. That's our problem, Darryl.
And they still destroyed him.
Yeah. Well, and let's just remind ourselves here, we do have definite character issues when it comes to Northam and the other, is it Huggins or who's the Herring? Definite admitted character issues. Yep. And yet, of these men, it is the African-American man who is going to be the one who will be effectively forced out when this is a character issue across the board with the Democrats. And boy, what does that tell you if it is the black man who's the one that has to go first?
Lawrence, 30 seconds, last word.
Because they want to protect their power, and he's not in their inner circle, so they're circling the wagons. The Democrats have not been consistent on this issue, and that's why we're heated on this panel, because I wish Kavanaugh was given the same grace and the opportunity to present his case like this guy is being given.
Yeah, you're darn right.
Fairfax is fighting for now, though.
All right, guys, I got to run. Tammy, Lawrence, Darryl, thank you so much. That was a real great discussion. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee embarrassed themselves today. Now, having languished in the minority since 2011, they have been itching to sink their teeth into anything and anyone Trump-related. Now, forget the important oversight function of the committee. There were too many political points to be scored. There were too many congressional reputations to burnish, too many opponents to burn. And despite the fact that he's only going to be in his job for maybe another week or so, Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker was in the hot seat. Recall that he only stepped into this role 3 months ago when Attorney General Sessions was fired. But every Democrat, without exception, grandstanded. For the most part, they asked questions that had nothing to do, zero relevance, to their proper oversight role. So the only purpose was to hit him with cheap shot after cheap shot after cheap shot, knowing that Whitaker was rightfully going to assert what's called the deliberative process privilege and refusing to answer questions about conversations he had with other DOJ staff or with the president himself. It's totally expected. So given the Democrats' over-the-top performances today, and it being the award season after all, we thought tonight we'd give out our own awards. So, for most frustrated inquisitor, the award goes to Representative Mary Gay Scanlon.
Congresswoman, I am not going to discuss an ongoing litigation. Congresswoman, I don't disagree that a district court judge
you may be confused here.
In litigation on this issue across the country.
Ask?
This is the subject of ongoing litigation.
Okay, so we'll let the record reflect that again you're refusing to answer the question. It's a yes or no question.
During the first term of the Obama administration, they filed, I believe, one
Okay, reclaiming my time, no running out the clock.
Oh, nice job. And for best repeater of a question unanswered, the award goes to Democrat Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia.
How many children are still separated from their families as we sit here today?
That's a number that only DHS and HHS would know.
So you have no idea how many children.
Again, those are different departments.
How many children have been torn away from the arms of their mothers?
No, I would have to refer you to HHS and DHS again.
Now, I guess she didn't know that the DOJ does not deal with children after they were apprehended at the border. Now, for speed reading of an overly long question, the award goes to Democrat Representative Joe Negussi.
I want to talk about another policy matter with respect to cannabis.
I represent the state of Colorado. In Colorado, recreational use of marijuana was legalized in 2014. Today, more than half the states have legalized either recreational or medical use of marijuana. Researchers at the University of Colorado, which I'm proud to represent, are working hard to understand how.
And do you know if the Department of Justice and the DEA intend to support legitimate cannabis research that can help protect the health and safety of our citizens?
Okay, we had to speed it up, otherwise it would last till the end of the show. So bear with us. All right, special award for the stretch of the day goes to Democrat Congresswoman Debbie Marcusel Powell, who asked Whitaker about his pre-government service, his work he did at a 501c3.
I haven't worked for FACT in 16 months, and I in my preparation for this oversight hearing,
Mr. Whitaker.
I didn't review the filings, so I don't
were there
know which
only,
box
thank you, Mr. Whitaker, thank you. Were there only 3 board members in this 501c3?
Yep.
I have some other questions here. All this time I'm waiting and I can't find the questions. This pertains to also an issue that's very close and dear to my heart, LGBTQ issues.
No, this was good. Okay. For revelation of a radical idea, I mean, a radical idea that no one had ever really, were they really going there? The award goes to Democrat Congressman Veronica Escobar.
I represent El Paso, Texas. Unfortunately, my community has been ground zero for many of this administration's cruel, anti-immigrant, anti-American policies. Will the Department of Justice ensure that asylum seekers have access to counsel in Mexico in order to allow them to prepare for their hearings? Yes or no?
We're going to continue to follow the policies at EOR that are currently in place.
Okay, wait a second. She thinks that we're supposed to now give the illegal aliens lawyers in other countries. Anything else? All right, let's keep it going. For honorable mention of time, well, just in the nick of it, the award goes to Attorney General, acting, Matthew Whitaker.
Have you ever been asked to approve any request or action to be taken by the special counsel?
Mr. Chairman, I see that your 5 minutes is up, and so
I loved it. Okay, and this is one of my personal favorites. The winner in the category of least time spent reading witnesses' bios goes to Democrat Congressman Hakeem Jeffries.
We're all trying to figure out, who are you, where did you come from, and how the heck did you become the head of the Department of Justice?
He was named by the president. Okay. Well, then there was the always energetic Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who wins the award for Best Bullying of a Former College Football Player.
And you have not yet appeared for an oversight hearing, yes or no? Yes or no?
The member has only 5 minutes, and if
we've just discovered that we have a 5-minute
wants a yes or
rule,
no
that's
answer,
amazing.
she's entitled to it. I will not allow the witness to stall and waste members' time.
Can the clock be restored?
it was. I'm sorry, what was your, I don't know if your time's been restored or not.
Mr. Attorney General, we're not joking here, and your humor is not acceptable.
I hope no one ever tells me that my humor is not acceptable. I'm waiting for that. All right, in the category of best use of props in lieu of an actual question, it goes to Natch, Congressman Ted Lieu.
There's no sentence in the Constitution that says, quote, the sitting president of the United States cannot be indicted, unquote. Correct?
Congressman,
yes or no?
As you know, I would
have it
refer you
right here. Is that sentence in this Constitution? It's not, correct? I'm not trying to trick you. Is that sentence in this Constitution? Mr. Chair, I'm just going to submit the U.S. Constitution for the record and say, no, that sentence is not in there.
Okay. All right. And for complete lunacy in a recurring series, we have a tie, my friends. This has never happened in the Ingram Awards before. The award goes to Representatives Eric Swalwell and Jerry Nadler.
Did your watchdog organization ever receive contributions from foreign donors?
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
I'd ask you to stop the clock.
Now, gentleman will suspend. The gentleman will state his point of order.
This is outside the scope of this hearing.
If you want to sit down there with his lawyers, you can go sit down there, but you're not his lawyer.
Gentleman will suspend.
And neither of you.
You can sit down there. There's room.
Both gentlemen will suspend.
Okay, we're going to suspend too. I'm sure that won't last. They'll be the last award we ever give out this season. Too many things happening. Now, with the Democrats starting all manner of Trump investigations, you can rest assured there'll be lots of dramatic and absurd performances, twists and turns in the days ahead. And that's the angle. Still ahead, I go one-on-one with former DNC Chair Donna Brazile. She's here to respond to what's going on in Virginia tonight, plus the increasing creep of PC Puritanism that I discussed in last night's angle. So stay right there. Bowing to the every demand of the politically correct Puritans puts us on a dangerous path, slippery slope, whatever you want to call it. The concern is that without some safe space to make mistakes in the past, good people won't want to be involved in public life at all. Maybe it's time to reconsider the shifting standards of the PC Puritans. So last night I warned about how people in both parties, now and even corporations, are falling victim to the ever-shifting PC goalposts. Now, I worry that the real offenses, like the donning of blackface, discriminatory intent as adult, well, that's being casually lumped in with imagined offenses like the release of an all-white tennis shoe being labeled insensitive during Black History Month. And could the attention given to these flashpoints have irreversible effects on our society and then just end up driving us all further apart when we need to come together for some real solutions? Now, for some answers, we're joined by my friend of too many years to count, Donna Brazile, former chair of the Democratic National Committee and co-author of the book, For Colored Girls Who Considered Politics. Donna, first of all, it's great to have you in tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm with you during Black History Month, and you're wearing all black.
Yeah, and yesterday for the Green New Deal, I was wearing green, so I'm in complete thematic dress.
We love it, though.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, Donna, what do you make of all of this with you know, the problem in Virginia, but then we have the corporation saying white shoes are racist?
I remember a couple of years ago when we said selling white sheets during Black History Month was also racist. Look, this is not about symbolism only. This is the substance of the conversation that perhaps we need to have as Americans. It's been almost 400 years now since the first group of Africans arrived on the shores of Virginia. 400 years is a long time to have a conversation worthy of a great nation like ours. And I think we often put aside, you know, the moment and just deal with the controversy and say, why won't, this is a great moment for you and I to talk about race. Where are we in the 21st century? Can we at least agree on the language that we must use in order to address some of these big issues, whether it's white males appearing in blackface, which clearly is objectionable, no matter the period, because we all know what it symbolizes, or, you know, talking about white tennis shoes during a time when, you know, it's time to celebrate Black History Month. What are we going to celebrate during the month that we look at senior citizens? Are we going to...
No gray sneakers allowed.
Well, hell, I better dye my hair now. Oh, my God.
But you know what? When you think about this, you got Ralph Northam, a governor of Virginia, Democrat governor, who gets up there and he talks about this photo, doesn't really say he's in one of the pictures, but then it comes out the next day and says, I wasn't in either picture. He gets himself in trouble kind of 2 times. Once for the photo with the KKK guy, it's Halloween, I guess, but then saying it's neither person is myself. Then you move on to Justin Fairfax. We have more allegations about him today, which I'll get to. Right. Then you get the next in line also said, well, I'm dressed up as a rapper.
Karen, and then we got the majority leader who's a Republican. See, it's not a partisan issue.
No, I don't think it is, actually. Some Republicans are trying to make it partisan. I actually think Democrats jump on Republicans of something they did 30 years ago, and now Republicans think, I'm going to get you back because you have a double standard. And my point is there, and you talked about this, is there any safe space where we can have this conversation? I know you as a person. You know me as a person. We've known each other for a long time. We don't agree on a lot of stuff, but you can have a reasonable conversation as adults. And I think the rest of the country watching this show, all over the place, they're saying, I get along with people.
Right.
Like, what is this that's happening?
Right.
So where do we go from here for that amnesty or that safe space?
Well, I love to use the word amnesty because I do believe there's a path to redemption. I'll give you a good example. Back in the 1990s, I was a congressional staffer. Robert Byrd, the former leader in the United States Senate, and a former Klansman.
Wasn't he a Grand Wizard? Wasn't he in the Klan?
And a recruiter. He was all of the above. Robert Byrd went to the floor of the United States Senate and denounced his engagement with the Klan, his involvement with the Klan. I thought that was a moment that we should have this conversation. And yet John Lewis and many others went and say, thank you. Thank you for not only denouncing that racist
But that wouldn't
past.
be good enough today, Donna. That would not be good enough today.
Well, that's a start. That's a start. Acknowledge the past. We cannot...
But he was actually an acting member of the KKK, and you still got the Robert Byrd rest stops, the Robert Byrd Library, the Robert Byrd everything in West Virginia. And so today, given the new standard, people got to resign immediately. They got to get out of public life. You'd have to rip down all those Robert Byrd things, whether he apologized or not. He had Ralph Northam apologize.
But not only did he apologize, but he went on to not only spearhead legislation like the renewal of the Voting Rights Act, he endorsed Barack Obama in 2008.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Today, none of that matters because there is no redemption for anybody
that's
today.
It. What I'm saying is that there's a path forward.
So if you're only a liberal, you can get redeemed?
No, I'm not saying illiberal. I mean, if Robert Byrd was a Republican, if Robert Byrd was a whatever, independent, the point is that we should have an individual path. Look, there are many times in my life, look at this, I got a good rocking chair.
Tippy.
Look, there are many, no, this is too early for me. There are many times.
It's late.
Look, there were several moments in my life when I've had to say, you know what, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I've apologized for it. And you know what? It made me a better human being because I had to humble myself and ask for an
I do that every day, Donna.
I do it too.
All right, there's a lot of concern, though, with the Democratic Party right now in Virginia. I'm a Virginia resident, love this, went to University of Virginia. But the problem is it's not just moving left, it's moving more towards socialism. And in this piece titled from the National Journal, Democrats are boosting Trump's re-election prospects. One liberal Democratic strategist was alarmed by the rising tide of socialism within the Democrat Party. It said this: we're on an out-of-control roller coaster going 100 miles an hour, and we have no functioning brake. No one's leading, and the void could not be more clear. So do you share that concern?
We have raised the profile of one dynamic young woman just elected to Congress who I do believe is a mover and a shaker. AOC. And what I like about her is that people are talking about these issues now. We're talking about Green Deal. We're talking about raising the wage. We're talking about issues that Democrats have been talking about for years,
right,
but all of a sudden...
the Democrats are signing on to something that's not even a prescription. It's just this resolution that would eliminate cars, eliminate planes, and give people jobs who are unwilling or unable to work. Unwilling to work would also get a minimum standard of living. Is that the Democrat Party today?
No, because we have several proposals. I told someone the other day we have like 6 different proposals on how to strengthen our health care system.
Yeah, and Pelosi doesn't like this.
My mother said it best when we were growing up. She said, it's not what they call you, it's what you answer to. I think most Democrats would answer to
they don't
who
want
are
this.
you?
Yeah, but they don't want
we are
this.
Americans who believe in, giving each and every American a healthy start and a head start in life. I mean, that's
But
not
that's
socialism.
not what. But all I'm saying, I don't want to make this all about AOC, but there is genuine concern within the Democrat Party that you think you have Trump on the ropes, but then all of a sudden, whoa, it's whiplash to the left, and the country said, wait a second.
Lord,
well, I got to ask you about Northam. Do you think Northam should go?
He's not going.
He said he wasn't going to go today, but do you think he should?
The Democratic Party of Virginia has said we're going to spend this weekend talking to our officials and figure out a path forward.
So you don't have a feeling on whether he should go or not?
I don't believe we know the answer because, as you know, on Friday night he said one thing, and then on Saturday night we may have to wait till tomorrow afternoon.
I had someone on my show
Laura,
on
you
Friday.
need your show on Saturday.
I had someone on Friday. Joe DeGeneres said he's a racist, and I love Joe, and I said, I don't think he's a racist.
No, he's
but the thing
not.
is, I'm getting heat. I'm getting heat as a Republican for standing up for Democrats. It would be nice if the favor were returned when conservatives are unfairly attacked. But there's like 3 people I can count them on one hand to defend me.
Ronald Reagan launched his campaign in Neshoba County, Mississippi.
Right? You
and
bet.
a few years after his election, he signed the bill to make Martin Luther King a national holiday. We need a path to redemption. Every American, regardless of color.
What about this Fairfax, these allegations against him,
I am
Lieutenant Governor?
deeply alarmed at these allegations.
A second woman came forward
I am
today.
deeply alarmed. I have talked to Justin. Justin is someone I know very well.
He denies it. He's denying this. He said it didn't happen, and she said she has told people contemporaneously, but we don't know much more.
Before, but you know what? We need to have an opportunity to hear more, to have the due process, an investigation, but I support these women coming forward.
All right, Donna Brazile. It's so much fun. I haven't
Invite me
talked to you.
during Women's History Month now, and then the agent, so I can dye my hair.
Only month. I can only invite
Senior
Donna
citizens,
during
come
actual
on.
thematic months.
Senior citizens.
Oh, come on. Senior
There must be a hot chick diva month, and I want to also come.
All right, Raymond said that Donna is the only person who doesn't age over like 2 decades, has no age. Thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Go Saints.
All right. Oh, God, they're still talking about the Saints, these people. All right.